Hey everybody, welcome to a new movie review. Today I'm going to be talking about I think it came out in the year 2000. It's called Frequency. It's sort of a time travel film. There's time travel elements in it for sure. It's not really exactly a time travel movie per se. It's not like Back to the Future. It's not like X-Men Days of Future Past. It's not like Terminator 2. It's done differently, and when I explain the plot synopsis, it'll make sense when I say it's different. So here's a shot of the cover again. It has Dennis Quaid and Jim Caviezel from Passion of the Christ in this. Basically, in this film, there is this guy basically digs up a um, this old radio set that his dad used to use a lot back when he was a kid. His dad was a firefighter, and he's kept all these newspaper flyers and newspaper articles and things like that of his dad. And throughout the years, they always talk about how great of a firefighter hero he was, and you know on situations where he barely made it out alive and things like that. And so basically, he hooks up this radio set. At first, it really doesn't do anything. His brother, and a good friend of his, kind of convinced him to dig it out and things like that, just because they had so many memories of it back when they were growing up. And so at first, it doesn't do anything, but at first, after having out for a while, he starts to realize that there's a frequency on there that allows him to communicate from his dad in the past. And so, because he's able to do that, he wants to, because this really isn't a spoiler, because it happens really, really early on in the movie, where Dennis Quaid's character died in a firefighter-related incident. And so, basically, since Jim Caviezel is talking to him in the past, he finds a way to basically stop his dad from ever being killed from this fire. And so basically he lives on, and because he saved his dad from dying in that incident, he now there's basically a whole new set of memories that just happened to him. He doesn't remember experiencing those things, but he has those memories in his head of him and his dad growing up, him and his dad watching all these baseball games and things like that, and learning how to ride a bike and things that his dad wasn't around for originally in the original human timeline. And so, because his dad, is now alive, a whole new series of events happen. The mom, who's a nurse at this hospital, has different kind of shifts, because originally she had to be home more to watch over the kids and things like that, since this guy had a brother. And so basically, I guess the best way to say it without giving away too much for the rest of the film is basically, because there's a whole new timeline, and because the dad didn't die, because he was around for several more years than he originally was. There's a whole new series of events and things that are currently happening in the present day for Jim Caviezel that he's at risk now for, because of all these things that his dad is now helping him with in the past and things like that. So there's a lot of things going on in this movie, I guess is the best way to say it. But basically, he's helping his dad in the past, and his dad is helping him do things. So in the present day, it's easier for him to handle and things like that. So that's basically the plot of Frequency, the easiest way I can put it. And I'm already 3.5 minutes into the video. So I really enjoyed Frequency, you guys. I've heard a ton of great things about it throughout the years. Never got around to seeing it, so I finally got around to actually watching it, and I was pretty happy with it. But there's a few things about it that you can definitely tell, like they try to make it more complicated than they needed to. There's a lot of points in this movie where it feels like a baseball film at one point. It feels like a firefighter film at one point. Feels like a cop story at one point. Feels like a detective story at one point. There's a lot of different subject matters they took on for this movie, and I think that's both a good and a bad thing. And when I get to my positives and negatives here in a second, you'll see why that's both a good and a bad thing. So for the positives of Frequency, I think it's a very fun film with a lot of heart to it. A lot of fun to sit through, very entertaining, a lot of heart to it. Like I said, you definitely got the sense that this guy's dad was a very important person to him. So he really wanted to make sure that all these things happening in the past, he was able to help him correct and things like that. So just a fun film with a ton of heart behind it. There's tons of great past to present transition elements to this film. Um, it just, if something happened in the past, or if like the dad now recently put something new in a new spot and things like that. Jim Caviezel would be able to find it, if he was the only one that was aware that it was hidden in a certain spot and things like that for certain items. And just the way the past and present transition worked, or like if you got a scar at some point in the past and it was permanent, you would see that scar kind of transitioning into that person in the present day and things like that. The present day in this film was the late '90s, so I know that's not really too current now, but at the time this film was released, that was a little bit more current back then. I thought Dennis Quaid and Jim Caviezel gave great performances in this film. Definitely the best I've seen of the two of them. Dennis Quaid has done a lot of stuff I really enjoyed though, but yeah, for the both of them, I mean, this is definitely one of their more notable films for sure. Just really good performances, and they really gave something special to the movie. I thought they had good screen chemistry. I thought as well. Several tense and gripping moments in this film. There's also a lot of moments where I was really engaged with what was going on. Very tense, very gripping. I really cared for the characters. I really wanted Jim Caviezel's characters to succeed in the present day with Dennis Quaid's help. I really wanted Dennis Quaid to succeed with the help that Jim Caviezel was giving him, since he knew all of the stuff that was going to happen in the past and things like that. So just tons of tense and gripping moments in this film that really, really worked for me. I hope they really work for you if you see this film as well. There's also a few great. There's not a lot of these scenes, but when they do happen, they're very, very effective, and I thought they were very well done. There was some really good chase scenes in this movie, specifically, with Dennis Quaid dealing with something that hasn't happened in the past originally. Now it is happening due to these new actions that he's doing and things like that. So just some great chase sequences that I was really impressed with in the movie. For negatives of frequency, I do think the first act of this film, how there's always a first act, a second act, and a third act to most stories. The first act in this film was kind of bland to me. It was very, just not very interesting. It really wasn't until this, these two, the son and the father, communicating over this radio, where things really started to get interesting. Before the radio got into the story, it really just not a lot going on. It was just a typical firefighter story, typical guy, not handling his relationships very well and things like that. So, first act of the film, wasn't too impressed with it. I think they could have found a better way to start off the film, because I was kind of worried that this was going to be a bad movie at first just by the first act alone. But luckily, as soon as the radio made it into the picture, things really started to take off and really got much better from there. I also don't like that the film shifted tones about 3 to 4 times. Like I said earlier, there was scenes that felt like a firefighter film, scenes that felt like a baseball drama or a sports drama, scenes that felt like a time travel film, scenes that felt like a drama, scenes that felt like they basically they never quite found an official tone for the movie, and I think that's either going to annoy people or intrigue people, simply because there's just so many really good genres and storylines and topics they've took on for this story that will either work for you or it won't. So the shift tone thing, it really got annoying after a while. It really felt like they just stuck Back to the Future with Sandlot, with Backdraft, with Rudy, with all these other, films that all put together into one, and they never really quite congeal into anything. So the shift in tone, the 3 to 4 time thing, kind of got annoying after a while. There's also some questionable time travel elements for this film for me. Just a lot of stuff where it's just like, okay, well, how come, if this new event happened now, how come it took that person that long and to get to that moment in time that conveniently happened after they just did this on the radio and things like that. There's a few small moments and frequencies like, okay, well, how come this person didn't notice that, or all that other kind of stuff. They just kind of question, because this is a good 20 to 30 year gap that these two men have to deal with in between with what's going on currently in this story. And like I said, some of the time travel elements really got questionable for me. So, though the ending of this film wasn't bad, I won't say what it is, because that'd be a spoiler. But I didn't hate the ending. I didn't love the ending. It was just one of those things where it just kind of ended. It didn't really have a clear wrap up. There was some loose ends that got tied up, obviously, but just the overall final scene of the movie, just it didn't have a lot of closure for me, and I didn't like that. So I think a better ending would have benefited for the movie. I would have liked it better. And because the first act, like I was saying before, was so bland, it was kind of unfortunate that the last like scene or so of the movie just kind of went kerplop. But overall, I give Frequency an 8.5 out of 10. There really is some really good things about this film. Like I said, it has a ton of heart to it. Very fun to watch. The past to present transitions were great. Dennis Quaid and Jim Caviezel gave great performances. The gripping, intense moments were great. The occasional chase scenes were great. But it suffered from a bland first act. Some of the shift in tone of the story was like a little bit annoying after a while. Some of the time travel stuff was a little bit questionable, and I think the film would have benefited from a better ending. So 8.5 out of 10 for me. I really do enjoy it. If you like time travel stories, if you want to see a unique take on time travel, I think you're really going to enjoy Frequency. So 8.5 out of 10 for me. Pretty good film, but don't expect the next Back to the Future, though.